Hi, my name is Sean and I have ADHD.
My name is Sarah and I have OCD.
I'm Heather and I have ADHD.
My name is Grace and I have anxiety.
My name is Gavin and I have ADHD.
I'm Jonathan and I have Tourette's syndrome.
What is ADHD?
ADHD is different for, I think, everyone, but, well, my ADHD, it causes me to get distracted easily, and there's also an emotional component to my ADHD, so I don't have as much control over my emotions as most people do.
So what is OCD?
Well, OCD stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, which means when your brain tells you to do something and you have to do it.
So what is ADHD?
Well, ADHD differs from person to person, and my personal ADHD is the inattentive type. And you're not going to see my ADHD from the outside, so I won't be the hyperactive type, and you won't see me move around a lot. But inside my head, everything is going crazy, and I will daydream a lot, and I've got 1,000 thoughts running through my head all at the same time. What is anxiety?
Anxiety is, at times, uncontrollable worrying about things that are usually out of your control.
What is ADHD?
ADHD, although it's different for everyone, has three most common symptoms. The first is that one with ADHD gets distracted easily. The second is works with the first. It's when they do focus on something, they go into a state of super focus where they ignore everything else. The third is that they have an overabundance of energy, which is the hyperactive and hyperactive disorder. My personal problems with ADHD are I blurt. My normal speaking voice is really loud. This is actually quiet for me, and the other common symptoms that I've mentioned.
What is Tourette's?
Tourette's syndrome is basically chemical imbalances within the brain that make you want to do certain things, have certain impulses within your muscles, within your vocal cords. Tourette's syndrome is defined by having both vocal and motor tics, so it's not just movements within the body, but it's also noises kind of made in the throat. And the best way I can probably describe Tourette's syndrome is like an itch. If you have to itch your nose sometime, you can ignore it for as long as you want, but at some time you basically have to do the itch, and that's how Tourette's syndrome works. When you itch it, you do the tic.
My ADHD has caused me to get distracted by the things in the classroom, and I end up disrupting the learning environment in ways that I don't realize I'm doing.
It has definitely affected me because I have a hard time paying attention in class because I'm busy doing all these patterns in my head. Like, just for instance, it sounds crazy, but I have to close my right eye, so people think I'm winking at them, but I'm really not. And so when I close my right eye, when you see your nose, you see like the little corner of it, and so I see like rectangles and triangles like everyone else does. But for instance, when I take the door, the bottom right-hand corner, I have to match up my nose, so then it goes over that corner, so I can't see the corner. And also, for instance, when I'm walking on sidewalk, obviously every single little piece of sidewalk is a square. And so on each corner of those squares, an imaginary line, like the path it would take if something were to shoot out of the corner, it's like these straight lines. Like, since there's two that meet kind of like this, like the one line, and then there's the two squares, and there's corners that they kind of share, it like shoots out, kind of crosses, and I can't step on those lines. And I don't know, I just have to do that, and it's really distracting, and I have to do it on like almost everything, and then when I can't see, I would think it would make me want to stop, but I don't want to, and I just use like other things, and it drives me like crazy.
My learning difference has made it really hard to concentrate in school. I can't focus on the teacher, what the teacher is saying. I'm constantly noticing the kid in front of me who's tapping his pencil, or the bird outside, or the picture on the wall, or the different patterning in the tile. All of like the outside things also, distract me, but most of the time it's inside. My head is constantly jumping from thought to thought to thought, and none of it is about or relative to what's going on inside the classroom. Its own personal stuff, and I get stuck on a loop, and I keep thinking of different stuff, and I get kind of lost in my sea of thoughts.
Well, over the years, I've learned that school can oftentimes be a very punitive and punishment-driven environment. And the best example I can think of is in middle school during PE, because we had teachers that would punish kids by making them run laps and do push-ups and things when you weren't able to get dressed in the 6 minutes they allotted for changing. And punishments were often given, 7 or 8 times in one class period because kids weren't able to adhere to these standards that the teacher set. And so for kids with anxiety like I have, that stressed me out to the point where my entire routine was altered just so I could fit these rules. I started wearing a very specific type of shoe so I wouldn't have to waste time tying them when I was changing into running shoes. I made sure to wear very loose-fitting clothing so I could take it off and change into my PE clothes, all because I was so worried about the punishment that I was going to be faced with if I didn't do everything right.
I feel like Tourette's syndrome is a little difficult sometimes because it can be a distraction for me. It makes me want to focus on myself, and it kind of deters from the teacher and the lesson. But at the same time, I do believe that it can also be a great advantage because it gives me a different perspective on life, on learning, and just the way I see things in the world. And some may call it a disability, and it is definitely a different way of learning. The way I learn is not generic. It's not the way everybody else does it. But it definitely gives me an advantage in some ways that I can sometimes understand and see things that people wouldn't know otherwise unless they could go through something like this.
I never did overcome it necessarily. What we did is that we changed my learning environment from something that would punish me for my ADHD into something that would celebrate my ADHD, because I don't just have ADHD, I'm also an independent learner, which means that I'm better teaching myself than having someone teach me. And Kava, the homeschool that I am now in, it is a curriculum that is entirely built upon independent learning.
Well, first I had to accept the fact of my learning difference, and then to overcome it, I still have yet to overcome it, but I do have a few tricks that I use, but not all of them work.
I don't think there's really a way to overcome a learning difference, but I definitely have learned how to live with my learning difference. You have to learn what works for you in order to overcome or learn to live with your learning difference. My parents, for instance, helped me get accommodations in school. For example, sitting in front of the classroom works best for me because there's a lot less distraction all around me. And they help me stay organized, and so I don't have to think about everything that's going on, and I can find what I need to find. And so it's more of a personal preference in order to find out what works best for you.
Well, in terms of anxiety, I've yet to overcome a lot of the pressure and nervousness that I still feel at school. But once I made the transition from middle school to high school, I met a lot of other kids who were facing the same anxieties that I was. And there's a sense of camaraderie now almost, because there's a group of kids that I am very close with, and we're staying up till 4 in the morning doing our homework for our EP classes, because we all face that same pressure, and we all have that same anxiety about the punishment that we'll face. And I think that's definitely a holdover from middle school. But it's getting better now, because I think the teachers are getting a little more understanding.
I believe that educators in public schools nowadays should take into consideration the background of any student that might be causing trouble in their class, because the troublemakers may have a condition or a mental block that is causing them to have these actions that disrupt the learning environment. And educators should also remember not to punish someone for relatively minor things that they may or may not have any control over, but instead help them with their problems.
I want people to know that I'm not ashamed of my learning difference. Owning it is the first step of accepting who you are. Sometimes I wonder if others have what I have, because other people don't even know about my OCD, because it doesn't affect who I am.
Yeah, definitely. In second grade, my second grade teacher and my mom were in a parent-teacher conference. And in this conference, my teacher actually told my mom that I was a space cadet. And I didn't find out that she had called me this till I was about in middle school. When I found out, it kind of hurt that a teacher called me a name because I couldn't learn the same as the kids around me could. And I want people in general and teachers to know that I work harder than the kids next to me, even do the same task. And I want teachers to know it doesn't affect our intelligence whatsoever. And, sometimes the smartest people out there have learning differences. Albert Einstein is an excellent example. He had a really hard time in school, but look at all the great things he did. And I think if we weren't forced to conform to fit in the box that is public school, we'd be able to show our true potential. And I think that's what people need to know about us.
Yeah, the traditional school system, in my opinion, is geared towards neurotypical kids and kids who learn in a very specific, straightforward way. And I think school administrators and teachers and educators need to be more understanding and empathetic to kids who don't learn in the way that has been considered the norm for so long. We need to accommodate kids that have disabilities and differences, like me and like my brothers and like so many other people that I know.
To educators, rather than trying to have every one of your students follow the same learning style, I'd recommend trying to figure out how each person learns most easily and work with that student so that they can learn, so they can have their most comfortable learning environment.
I would say that Tourette syndrome does not define me. I would say I definitely define myself, and people should know that I'm just like you, and there's really no difference between you and me. I may learn differently, I may sound differently, I may look differently, but inside we're all the same, and I believe we should all treat each other the same.